Hi guys, welcome back to another day at Bookmas. I hope you are cozy. If you're not, this is your sign. Get your cozy setup going. I have to say, I'm feeling very festively coordinated today. I've got my Christmas mug, which has the pink handle and obviously the red like gingham check, which is perfectly matched with my pink and red Christmas PJs. I've got a mint tea in here and I'm just gonna quickly light a bookish candle. Oh my god, this one smells so good. This one is called Burning Through Pages, Oak Leather and Sweet Whiskey. Hell yeah. So even though you're not gonna be able to see it, I'm gonna light it because, like I said, I'm setting every festive vibe in here. Okay, checklist complete. We have the PJs, the mug, the tea, the candle. Let's talk about 2026 new releases. Now, the new release game every year just gets crazier and crazier, and 2026 is no different. I don't even know how we're gonna set any TBR because there's so many new releases to keep up with. I'm like, how am I ever gonna read books that have already come out prior to this? But 2026 is going to be a good year. So if you're curious as to what 2026 has in store, if you're someone that gets ahead of yourself and is already excited about all the books they're going to read next year, just like me, then here we go. Brief heads up, probably not necessary to explain at this point, but it is quite a lot of romance in this list. We've got a strong amount of contemporary romance, a lot of fantasy, romantasy, mystery, thriller, and I have to say we're pretty limited on general fiction. Okay, let's dive straight into it. Oh, and I also should have said, it's probably in the title anyway, but we've got 26 new releases for 2026, of course. First up, on the 13th of January, we have A Killer Kind of Romance by Letizia Larini. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. This is an author that's completely new to me. I just saw this book and thought it sounded so much fun. The story follows Scarlett, who is a true crime podcast host, which is kind of giving me like Listen for the Lie vibes, but she's a true crime podcast host and she's trying to solve this serial killer murder case, and she ends up in a romance with this mysterious guy that lives next door. It says, suddenly her life reads like a romance novel filled with every trope she used to mock, including the dangerously irresistible lead. He's perfect in every way, except now he's the prime suspect in the string of brutal murders. Will this be the love story she never saw coming, or is it a killer kind of romance? I just think it sounds fun. It sounds like a true crime podcast host falls in love with her next door neighbor, who's also the prime suspect in this string of murders. It sounds like there's loads of other fun stuff that happens along the way. I think it sounds really fun, probably quite unserious, and such a good one for January when you're trying to beat those January blues. The fact that it's like true crime fits with like the wintry vibe, but also kind of like boosts your spirits a little bit when those first few weeks of January can feel a little bit painful. That one is definitely going on my TBR. Then on the 27th of January, I am yet to read an Alice Feeney book, but My Husband's Wife is her newest release coming out on the 27th of Jan, and it sounds really appealing to me, so I thought it could be my first foray into Alice Feeney. The story follows a woman named Eden who goes out for a run, comes home, and a strange woman opens the door, and her husband comes to the door, and her husband is like, this is my wife, and she's like, what? I'm your wife. And this woman is like, no, this is my house, this is my husband. And the little one-liner that really got me, that made me think, oh, I think it's time for me to start reading Alice Feeney. It says, one house, one husband, two women, someone is lying. Like, what? You go for a run, you come back, and all of a sudden your husband is like, no, this is my wife. And the woman's like, yeah, I'm his husband. And you're like, what? I've just been for a run. Like, is it amnesia? Did something happen? And they're like, sociopaths? Like, I don't know, but I want to know. Very excited about that one. Then we move into February. On the 3rd, we have The Wild Card by Stephanie Archer. It's so unfortunate that Elsie Silver came out with Wild Card, and I think at roughly the same time Stephanie Archer released the name of her book, The Wild Card. I just think they're like painfully similar for like a similar kind of, I mean, Stephanie's are hockey, Elsie's are like small town, they're not quite cowboy, but they're both contemporary romance. Anyway, I just thought it funny that the names are so similar. But The Wild Card, which is I think book 5 now in the Vancouver Storm series, I'm enjoying that series more and more as every book goes on. I started off as a total hater and now I'm thriving with it. I really enjoyed the last book, which, what was the last book called? Gloves Off, I think. I really enjoyed Gloves Off. They're fantastic books to listen to on audio. Stephanie seems to really prioritize the audiobook narrators, and they're done duet style. They're just really quick, easy palate cleanser, a fun contemporary romance. They're all pro ice hockey players. Nothing that's going to challenge your brain too much. Again, perfect for if you're feeling some of those like deeper winter blues and you want something a little just light and fluffy. You know you're guaranteed a happy ending. It's two people falling in love under very low stakes situations, but the banter is good, the found family is good. I have a great time. Then on the 10th of February, we have a new release-ish. We've got Two Can Play by Ellie Hazelwood. The audiobook of this is already out. I think it came out in October time, but the print version, so the physical copybook and the ebook, are coming out on the 10th of February, but you could listen to the audiobook of it now if you wanted to. But honestly, part of the reason I put this on the list was just to say, let's just all keep an eye out for Ellie Hazelwood, okay? Let's all just keep an eye out for what she's going to release, because currently that is the only Ellie Hazelwood 2026 release that we have on the cards at the moment. We know that simply won't be the case. That woman writes like she's running out of time. Ali Hazelwood churns out books like no one else. So So I'm confident that we will get some good 2026 Ali Hazelwood books. I personally would love for her to write more paranormal romance. She's so good at it. Bride and Mate were both absolutely fantastic. It kind of kills me that I can't foresee what the next book in that kind of series would be. Praying there is another one. If not, write something else, babe. I actually don't care what you write. Just please write something so I can read it. We're going to keep an eye out, but I have nothing else on the list that's Ali Hazelwood. Then on the 12th of Feb, we have A Dark Forgetting, which is Kristen Ciccarelli's new book. I loved Heartless Hunter. I loved Rebel Witch. They were both so good, or I guess not Heartless Hunter for us on this side of the pond. It's The Crimson Moth. Oh, then I actually skipped one. We've got Dawn of the North by Demi Winters. Now, I haven't read, I think it's called the Ashen series. The first book in the series is called The Road of Bones. It is so high on my TBR. And with any series, anytime a new book comes out, it just bumps it up the list because I know I've got less cliffhangers to suffer through. So for anyone that is loving the Ashen series, then book 4 is coming out very soon. You'll be pleased to know. For anyone that hasn't read it, including me, the first book in the series, which we should all, I guess, just get on with reading now, so we're prepped when the new release comes out. A Woman on the Run, A Crew of Viking Mercenaries, Forbidden Romance, and then some kind of big secret, but those things just sound great to me. Viking Mercenaries, Woman on the Run, Forbidden Love kind of sounds a little bit One Dark Window-esque. I mean, I guess not really, but just something about it's giving me similar vibes, so I'm excited about that one. Next we have on the 24th of Feb, I'm so excited about this one. And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. I loved First Time Caller so much, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it a million times. There is something about First Time Caller that feels like a Christmas book. It feels like a Christmas movie, to be honest, in book form. There is something so festive about that book, even though like it's not set at Christmas. And I think because this series, I think it's called the Heartstrings series, they're all based on some of our favorite classic rom-coms. So First Time Caller was based on Sleepless in Seattle, and the new one, And Now Back to You, is based on When Harry Met Sally. Guys, it's gonna be so good. Honestly, it's gonna be so good. If you like those movies, try these books. There is something so wholesome about the way that B.K. Borison writes. It's just so like soothing on the brain. I don't know what it is, but they're comforting and cozy, and they just feel like a big mug of hot tea, and I'm definitely going to be running to this one. Speaking of tea, let's have another sip. Then on the 3rd of March, the thing that's getting me through my rewind it back grief, we have In Her Own League by Liz Tomford. This is the, I don't know if it's a spin-off, I hope it's not a novella, but it is basically the next book in the Windy City series, but it's about the coach and Reese. So we have met both Emmett, who's the coach, and Reese in, I think we saw them interact in Caught Up. It's gonna just be fantastic. I mean, Liz Tomford can do no wrong. If you haven't read the Windy City series yet, I probably recommended it a billion times, but crack on, get on with it. And I'm so pleased that Liz is like gifting us with this final, I assume this is the final book now. Like, I can't imagine we'll get anything else, but if she can come up with any other spin-offs, like I'll read them. I'm so excited about that one. Then on the 17th of March, we have Love Song by Elle Kennedy, which is the next book in her, oh no, I'm gonna get it wrong now. I think it's called The Campus Diaries, this series. I loved the Off-Campus series. Let's not get carried away by talking about the Prime, the Amazon Prime. It looks so good. The Off-Campus series is being adapted to TV. It's coming to Prime Video, I don't know when, but all of the little teaser videos that we're getting, they're posting on socials, are like Garrett and Hannah, flawless, like flawless casting. The vibes look so good. Like watching all of the boys, you can see Dean and Logan, like watching them all train, do like their hockey training and stuff. Phenomenal, phenomenal. When they did like the casting call, they said the actors absolutely have to be able to play hockey, and they were open to recruiting and hiring actors or actresses that were like didn't have any acting experience, but as long as they could play hockey, and then they'd kind of like coach them through it, I guess. So I'm so excited because it feels like they've discovered people who like aren't well-known actors and actresses, and I think it looks really promising. Anyway, getting sidetracked. The Campus Diaries series is a second-gen series that follows the Off-Campus Diaries series. I don't think you have to read the first series in order to read this one, but again, I'm somebody that loves context, so I personally like reading every single book that I can to give me all of the like clues and Easter eggs as to what's going on in the future books. So I would recommend starting there. But Campus Diaries, I've had mixed experience. In fact, I wouldn't necessarily say I've had a mixed experience. I loved the first 2 books in the series, which were The Graham Effect and The Dixon Rule. I read them in January 2025, and guys, I had the best time. I think The Dixon Rule is like one of the best books I've read, just because I was howling with laughter. It just sparked so much joy in me. It was absolutely hilarious. And then The Charlie Method came out, and I tried to start it a couple of times and I just couldn't get through it. I think I couldn't get through it not because of the book or the writing, because Why Choose is just just not my vibe. I can't wrap my head around it. I can't understand it as a concept. So I just found it really hard to connect with the story, knowing that it was going to head in a why choose direction and with characters that I had really wanted. I don't think it's a spoiler to say because it's not spoiling anything. It's just my wants for the characters. But the two male characters in the why choose dynamic, which is MFM, I really wanted those two male characters to end up together. So the fact that it's like a why choose with this girl involved, I was like, no, but we just had such a nice romance on our hands between those two guys. So I'm like a little bit disappointed about that. Anyway, so I didn't read the third book, but I will still be going on to Love Song. Very excited about that. Then on the 17th of March, another kind of new unknown find is Inamorata by Ava Reid. Ava Reid is the author that wrote A Study in Drowning, which I also haven't read yet, but I thought Inamorata sounded really interesting. It's an atmospheric gothic fantasy about necromancy, vengeance, and soul-consuming love, and it's the first book in a duology. One, I love a duology. Who doesn't love a duology? So satisfying to know you've only got 2 books to get through an entire story. A little bit more satisfying than just one book where you feel like, oh, I just want more. And necromancy, vengeance, and a soul-consuming love. Like, tick, tick, tick. I think I've got A Study in Drowning upstairs on my shelf, but I might be tempted to read Inamorata first because I'm so intrigued by it. And then on the 31st of March, we have Abby Jimenez's next book, The Night We Met, which is the second book in her latest interconnected standalone series, the first book of which was Say You'll Remember Me. I didn't love Say You'll Remember Me as much as I loved her other, like the first 3 books that I've read of hers, which is Yours Truly, Just for the Summer. And I cannot remember the name of the first book in that series. That's so annoying. But I really enjoyed those 3. I didn't love Say You'll Remember Me as much. I still liked it. I just think it was so sad and in a really frustrating way. I don't know. There was something about how unfair it felt, like these characters just couldn't catch a break, and that might sound really petty of me, but I just remember feeling like, come on now, like this is just cruel. I didn't feel like life was cruel to them. I genuinely felt like the author, like I felt like Abby was cruel to them. And then even when they got an epilogue, I was like, these guys they deserve an entire other book's worth of happiness because they've just been put through the ringer in a way that I just feel like it was too much. I don't know. There was something about Say Remember Me, it wasn't for me, but I am gonna read The Night We Met, largely to hope that the 2 main characters in Say Remember Me will be in this as side characters and maybe they'll have a bit of flipping piece. But I still love Abby, I still love her writing, I want to give it a go. So that's coming on the 31st of March. And then also on the 31st of March, for any of you guys that just like dancing with the devil a little bit and just sometimes need a good laugh, the ones of you that also listened to Lights Out and thought, well, that happened. The 3rd book in the Lights Out, I don't know what that, Into Darkness or something like that, I think the series is called. Nevessa Allen's latest book in that series, Game On, is out on the 31st of March. I still haven't listened to the audiobook of Caught Up, but I will get to it. I'm gonna get to it like this month. I'm confident I'm gonna get to it. And to be honest, I'll probably try Game On as well. I don't know if the novelty is gonna wear off a little bit because Lights Out, adjusting the comedic timing in Lights Out, the content is so outrageous. For anyone that's never heard of it, it is a dark romance that's based on like stalkers and like a mask fetish. It's completely outrageous. Like there's no 2 ways about it. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's outrageous, but the comedic timing, especially in the audiobook, is so ridiculous for such dark topics and for such outrageously dark spice. I couldn't help but like gasp and laugh throughout the entire thing. So I'm gonna give Game On a try as well. Then on the 7th of April, we've got Rights of the Starling, which is the 2nd book after Shield of Sparrows. Devney Perry's relatively recent release, came out the second half of 2025. I've heard nothing but rave reviews for Shield of Sparrows, like rave reviews. However, I was gonna get to it very soon, but I've also heard the cliffhanger is no joke. So the fact that the 2nd book is coming out in the first half of next year makes me think, oh, maybe I'll wait on Shield of Sparrows so that I can do them back to back. I've heard we're talking like 6-star predicted fantasy series. So if you are looking for a stellar fantasy book, I haven't read it yet, but people whose reviews I really trust have given it 6 stars, world class, Shield of Sparrows, add it to your list, and I have added the 2nd book to my list without having even read the first. Then we've got another new author to me, Chloe Leese, I think I'm pronouncing her name right, on the 14th of April with her new book, Happy Ending. I think this is gonna be another chill, heartwarming, relaxed rom-com. It says it's for fans of Christina Lauren, who I really enjoy, and Annabelle Monaghan, who I I've only read one book, but loved. It sounds like the tropes are friends to lovers and fake dating. They're both divorced, which makes me think that they might be a little bit older. So it just sounds like a book that ticks all my boxes, especially coming out in that April kind of time, spring starting to hit the air. Fun, heavy rom-com just sounds right up my street. Then, 28th of April, we have The Ballad of Falling Dragons by Sarah A. Parker, which is the second book after When the Moon Hatched. I know that book is a little bit Marmite. Some people loved it. Some people just were like, what on earth was that? I was in the loved it camp. I think because I'd heard so many bad things about it, my expectations were very low and I just had the best time. I thought the writing was great. I thought the story was great. I can't wait to know what happens next. I will be reading The Ballad of Falling Dragons probably on the 28th of April. Then 5th of May, Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. I read my first Carly Fortune books this summer, one golden summer and every summer after. Fantastic. The more I think about them, the more I kind of feel like maybe they're 5 stars. I might reread them next summer and maybe they'll become 5 stars. But Our Perfect Storm is Carly Fortune's new book. I'm 100% going to be reading it. Then on the 5th of May, Fury Bound by Sable Sorensen. I read the first book in this series, Diabound, not that long ago, and I really loved it. I'm so excited to read what's next. If you haven't read Diabound, think Fourth Wing, but with wolves instead of dragons, and in my opinion, better. It gave me the premise of Fourth Wing that I really liked, but just executed better, and again, in my opinion, with a way better romance. Like, I don't want to give anything away. In fact, I can't give anything away, but sorry if you can hear that little dog yapping, but highly recommend Diabound and put Fury, which you didn't even need to put Fury Bound on your list. Like once you finish Diabound, you'll immediately look up exactly when Fury Bound is coming and it will be already on your list, but 5th of May. 12th of May, we have another author that's new to me, Sonia Tagliarini, with her new book, Deathbringer, which I just think sounds right up my street. It says for fans of Kerry Maniscalco, which you guys know I really enjoyed the Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy, dark academia romantasy, steeped in necromancy, forbidden love, a twisty murder mystery set within the perilous halls of the Magical Institute. Say less. Say less. 19th of May, we've got Light Wielder, which is the second book after Metal Slinger by Rachel Snyder. I have not read Metal Slinger, but it's also really high on my list. And again, the fact that the second book is coming out makes me feel less stressed about reading the first book because we know a romantasy cliffhanger sucks or is amazing, however you want to look at it. I like to know I can go straight on to the next one. So the fact that Light Wielder's coming out makes me more inclined to read Metal Slinger. Let me know if you've read Metal Slinger and if you enjoyed it, but that's the 19th of May. Also on the 19th of May, which sadly, unfortunately, not to insult Light Wielder anyway, but we'll be clearing Light Wielder out of the way. On the 19th of May, we have Elsie Silver's new book, Fever Dream. Now, I might as well probably just go ahead and say that Elsie Silver is my favorite author at this point because every single book she writes, I thoroughly enjoy and give over 4 stars. I've never given one of her books less than 4 stars, and considering she's got, I don't even know how many books at this point, like she must have 14 books, 15 books, something like that, all of them over 4 stars. She's a magician, and this is the first book in her new series that's set in Emerald Lake. The male main character is Emmett, who we've met a couple of times in a couple of different series. Emmett is the rival of Theo Silver, my favorite Elsie Silver male main character. He's like the #1 rival of Theo and the best friend of Bash, who we meet in Rose Hill. It's gonna be so good, okay? Mark your calendars, this is gonna be so good. Then on the 26th of May, we've got Dolly All the Time, which is Annabelle Monaghan's new book. I have so much Annabelle Monaghan catching up to do. I've only read Summer Romance and I really loved it and I want to read more of her stuff. And from what I can tell, Dolly All the Time sounds like if you enjoyed Summer Romance, you would enjoy Dolly All the Time. It's also about a single mother and it's giving me the same, more kind of women's fiction that leads romance, as opposed to like a purely fluffy contemporary romance book. There's like more meat on the bones, or there was so much more meat on the bones of Summer Romance than like a traditional contemporary romance. And I think the depths that it went to just hit me in all the feels. I felt like I had so many notes to make about that book and so many quotes and so many things I wanted to underline. And here's hoping that Dolly All the Time gives me similar vibes. Okay, June, finally heading into the second half of the year. We do have way, way, way fewer books in the second half of the year, but 9th of June, we've got Harvest Season by Bryn Weaver. You guys know, I recently finished Taurus Season and I loved it. I had such a good time. I can't wait for the second book. And I think it's so fun that this is an actual trilogy. I think you don't get, I mean, this is, I think it's technically categorized as dark romance, but anything that's kind of like that, contemporary romance, dark romance, any romances that basically aren't fantasy, I think it's really, really rare to get multiple books in the actual series. Normally they're interconnected standalone, so it's like a different couple. No, we're following the same couple. And the cliffhanger that we left book 1 on, oh, it was so good. I honestly cannot wait for Harvest Season. So weird to me that it's coming out in June. It's like she's released both of these books at like odd times, and maybe that's just part of the kookiness of Bryn Weaver. But we had tourist season, which was about the summer, that came out in autumn, and now we're getting harvest season, which is obviously autumn that's coming out at the beginning of summer. But 9th of June, harvest season, I'll definitely be reading that / definitely be listening to it. The audiobook of tourist season was so good. Then on the 7th of July, we've got Love Wells Kept by Bailey Hannah. I am behind on this series. I didn't realise how many new books. I think this is the 5th book. If you are looking for some cowboy romances after you've finished all of Elsie Silver's books and you've also read like Lila Sage's books, I loved Alive and Wells. I thought that was fantastic. I also really enjoyed Seeing Red. I didn't love it as much as Alive and Wells, but apparently we're now on like book 5 or book 4 or something of this series, and I've been missing them. But Love Wells Kept is the next book. And to be honest, I just have way too few cowboy romances on this list. In fact, I think that might be the only cowboy romance I have on this list, which feels criminal. So 7th of July, Love Wells Kept, and I've definitely got some reading to do before then, so that I've read the other ones up until that point. Editing Ellen here, sorry for my crazy appearance, but the neighbours turned on like a drill or a lawnmower or something right as I was talking over one of the books that I am most excited about, and the audio is so bad I've had to cut out me talking about that book, but it's one of the most important ones. To be honest, I've talked about it so much now on my channel. If you do watch lots of my videos, you'll be bored of this. But even though we don't have a specific date yet, it is confirmed that summer 2026, we are getting the 3rd book in, I don't actually know what the series is called, The Wolf King. I should probably look it up. The Wolf King series, but the 3rd book after The Wolf King and the Night Prince by Lauren Pal Freeman. You already know how I feel about these books. They sent me feral. I need more Blake. I need more Blake. It's a need. It's a need, and I cannot wait for book 3. So if you're looking for a new romantasy series to crash out over with sexy, broody werewolves with Scottish accents, then you've got between now and summer 2026 to check out The Wolf King so that we can all crash out together over book 3. Okay, back to the other Ellen. 1st of September, we're on to book 25, guys. We've only got 2 books left. 1st of September, we have The Knave and the Moon by Rachel Gillig, which is the 2nd book in this Stonewater Kingdom series. The 1st book was The Night and the Moth, which came out in September of 2025. I really enjoyed The Night and the Moth. There was something about it that wasn't as gripping as I expected it to be, but I think that now I've got the context, and now I know that it's more Gothic fairy tale than Gothic fantasy. I feel much more like settled in what the series is, and I think I'll really enjoy The Knave and the Moon now that I know it's not so intense. I'm gonna go into it thinking Gothic fairy tale, so I'm very excited about that. I just love Rachel Gillig's writing. Every single time it impresses me, and I think I'm learning the more I read that I do care about a book being well written, or I really struggle to see past poor writing, and Rachel Gillig is just one of those authors that I can read her writing, and every single time it just adds so much rather than detracting anything or distracting anything. And then, guys, this is it, number 26, which also happens to be my most anticipated release for the entire year. On the 3rd of December, like I said, this book is the book that I want the most, and it's coming out so far at the end. Wait, I just realised I missed a book. On the 14th of July, so before The Knave and the Moon, one of my most anticipated releases of the entire year, I can't believe I nearly skipped it. 14th of July, we finally have Burn of the Everflame by Penn Cole. Now is your sign. If you haven't started Spark of the Everflame and you enjoyed Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, all of the Sarah J Maasai kind of thing, but like specifically Throne of Glass, like if you want something that good, okay, it's not that, nothing is that good, but I will say Throne of Glass has its drawbacks, right? Like it's obviously forever changed me. I will love it forever. It's probably the best series I've ever read. But you do have to read like 4 books to get into it, which, you know, says something. Spark of the Everflame, you'll be gripped from the beginning, or at least maybe not the beginning, but from book 1 you'll be gripped. Burn is the final and 4th installment. Heat, I've said this before, I actually had to stop after part 2 because apparently the cliffhanger at the end of Heat is excruciating. So I'm gonna read part 3 of Heat and then go on to reading Burn. Get to this book, okay? Get to it before the, what did I say, the 14th of July. Complete this series up until the end of Heat, and then we can all read Burn together because it's gonna be good. Okay, and then now, I can't believe it, we are on to the final book, number 26 of my 26 recommendations for 2026. And this book, the final book, the 26th book, is my most anticipated release of the entire year, and I can't believe I have to wait all the way until the 3rd of December for me to get my most anticipated release. I need this book. I need this book so much. And it doesn't even have a title yet. It is called The Evermore Trilogy Book 2 by Julie Soto, and it's the second book after Rose in Chains, which was one of my favourite books of this year. It was exactly what I want my romance to be like. It was so slow burn, this is not a review of that book, like shut up Ellen, but slow burn, yearning, excellent magical systems. I just loved the whole thing, and I want book 2 so much. We don't even have a name for it yet, but the 3rd of December. And guys, that is it. That is it. I have to say a few thoughts on the back of that list. One, the second half of 2026 is very light on new releases. I think because we're still quite a far way out, it always tends to be the case that the second half of the year for new releases, you kind of find those out more at the beginning of the year. So I reckon February, March time, we'll start having a really strong picture of what like the second half of new releases is gonna look like. So the second half at the moment is looking pretty sparse. The first half of the year is stacked, which is kind of always the case when you're looking ahead. You kind of get 6 months. 2, I can't remember if I said this at the beginning, but if I didn't, these dates are all very subject to change. This is kind of just what's roughly coming out next year. I find that I think it's the case with a couple of these, like even the differences between when like Goodreads said it's going to be released and then the release date that's on the draft cover, they're often different. I think they do shift quite a lot. It feels like book release dates are very rarely like properly set in stone, so they may shift, but as of right now when I'm filming this, these are the most accurate dates that I have. And then finally, if anybody has any literary fiction 2026 new release recommendations for me, please let me know. I tried to have a look at some of my favorite literary fiction authors. It doesn't look like we're getting anything from Taylor Jenkins Reid next year. I think if we do get something from her, we'll probably find out about it more like February, March time. We obviously got Atmosphere not that long ago. She doesn't tend to like churn books out, but they come out relatively regularly. But there's no news on anything from her. And then If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, that was one of my most favorite kind of literary fiction-y books that I read this year. And M.L. Rio recently came out with Hot Wax. I haven't read that yet. And I think because Hot Wax, again, was such a recent new release, there's nothing predicted for next year so far. So my literary fiction cup is very empty. So if anybody's got any recommendations, please let me know. Let me know if there are any other books that you think I've missed just in general that you're looking forward to in 2026. Any of the books that I listed that you're really excited about. I'm excited about, well, to be honest, every single one of them. Like they're all gonna be such a good reading year. Anyway, that's officially enough from me. I've yapped for way too long, but thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow for the next episode of Bookmas. Bye guys.